Heyo, what's going on, everybody? It's episode 204 of the Audible Farm podcast, and this episode is brought to you by Couchtown Coffee. Couchtown Coffee is amazing. I've got a French press full of Couchtown right next to me right at this moment. If you guys want to check out Couchtown Coffee, which, who doesn't drink coffee? I mean, come on. Just go to couchtowncoffee.com, find a coffee you like. They'll roast it for you and ship it to your house. They're roasting the coffee specifically for you and then sending it to your house. That's how awesome they are. So check it out, couchtowncoffee.com. Find a coffee you like, make an order, and when you do, you will receive 20% off when you let them know Audible Farm sent you. That's right, 20% off of your coffee. And you know what? That's pretty much just gives you free shipping. I mean, it brings Couchtown Coffee down to comparable or cheaper than, some of the stuff you can get in stores nowadays. So check it out. It's totally worth checking out. couchtowncoffee.com. Thanks, Couchtown. This episode, I'm sitting down with Vince Benyshek. Vince has been on the podcast before. I think the last one he was on was about half a year ago, something like that. But yeah, we sit down and talk about how he recently played with Vinny and the Night Prowlers at the Rockin' Picnic in Humboldt, Iowa, which it's kind of a fun roundabout story. He got one of his first shows he played with Vinny and the Night Prowlers was at that event, and one of his most recent shows was also at that event just 2 years later. So it's kind of cool how 2-year time span, watching him grow and all that kind of stuff. So we talk about those kind of things. We talk about the Rockin' Picnic. We talk about other things he's doing musically as well, other than Vinny and the Night Prowlers. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode because I always have fun sitting down talking with Vinny. It is episode number 204 with Vince Benyshek.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
I'm sitting down today with Vince Benyshek. What's up, everyone on Patreon?
Right on.
So we're doing video on Patreon still. Vince, you've been on the podcast before. You've been on the podcast a handful of times. We were going to hope to get all of Vinny and the Night Prowlers on, but it just didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
The last time you guys were on was 2 years ago, and 2 years ago you were on the Rockin' Picnic. You guys had kind of just formed. You'd played a couple shows, like filling in at intermission or playing like opening up for bands or things like that.
Yeah.
But this was like your first time as a band, like at a dedicated slot somewhere. Was the Rockin' Picnic, and it was what, your third show?
Yeah, something like that. Like literally we had played together like 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
So and it was really awesome to get back there yesterday and play there again. I guess it would be, if this is coming out on Thursday, then on this last Sunday before, folks.
Yeah, Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, so that was really cool. Going back to kind of me and Travis were talking about it, kind of where it all started, and our first one where we're like, yeah, heck yeah, I think we should keep doing this, even though we're miles ahead of what, me as a musician, Travis, our band, we're way tighter, and it just felt good to get back there and just play some rock and roll, man,
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild. We've talked about it in other podcasts, how kind of like you and I like met at Iowa Central, like going to college together, and you and I were both like a little bit older than most of the people there. Me more so than you, obviously, but yeah, it was kind of fun. We like met that way. We played a little bit. You started your own band. You played at the Rockin' Picnic. It was just kind of like this thing that's like, wow, that's kind of cool. I got to see you kind of like grow locally, but you also like went out of town and sourced your own musicians and then came back as like almost this prodigal son of, the area. And we're like, hey, I started a band, let's play some stuff. And, coming back, you guys got a slot that was pretty much like the support of the headliner, which is pretty wild. You go from opening the show to supporting the headliner.
So that was actually meant a lot to me too. And, I talked to Scott about it, and big shout out to Scott for putting that on and doing the hard work that he does to make sure that runs smoothly, Scott Dahl, for all that don't know, but I'm sure you do.
Yeah, everyone in that Rockin' Picnic committee. I mean, there's other people. Scott's just like the figurehead that stands there at the festival, but
talks. But yeah, no, and and that's one thing, man. When Scott he had reached out to me like back in January or February or something. He's like, hey, about playing, and I was like, dude, of course.
Yeah.
I want to go back because like I want to redeem myself, from my first time playing there, and not that we needed to, or anything, but I got to talking to Scott about this last night, and I was like, man, we're just starting back then, and I'm not happy with that show compared to now. I wouldn't be if I played like that, and I don't want to say it was a bad show or anything, but I was still trying to find my sound, what I wanted to sound like,
Yep.
And I think I've got that now. And that's like I've got my tone, kind of set up like, hey, this is, when you hear my guitar play, people are like, when you're playing, we can tell it's you.
Yep.
So that's cool. But, and it just came back to the fact like, man, like that was kind of one of our first shows we ever played. And I was like, yeah, we're like 20 times the musicians we were then. Like me and Travis anyway. Bob's been doing it his whole life. But... and it just felt good to go out there, and I think I put a good set together.
Yeah.
I mean, and my goal, I told Scott, my goal was to go out there and try to not stop. I just want to keep rocking and rolling, I just like want to blow people's faces off, basically, is what I said, and Scott said, hey, you did a good job at it, and I was like, yeah, thanks, dude. I'm incredibly proud of myself.
Yeah.
And the show I put on, so, and it just means a lot to be back and doing that, kind of where it started,
Yeah, that makes me think of the old adage, like if you're up on stage talking, you're not playing, which means that you're, can you play? It's always these like, can you fill the time slot if you're up there talking for,
right.
a quarter of the time? Or like if you're just waiting and trying to like figure out what the next song is, it kind of gets painful. Even up on stage, you're just like, we need to do something. So
it's awkward,
Yeah.
Like even watching and people sometimes it's like, hey, what the heck?
Yep.
But I've been on stage too where like, hey, what are we going to play? And I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah, somebody name something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely those times too. Like it depends on the show too, but
right.
It kind of depends on the band though. Like if you're like a high energy band like you guys are, that's kind of just how it works. It fits your bill, like you got announced at the show and it was like Scott Dahl made a comment about how you look like an Amish person because you had suspenders on, and then he was just like, "This is Vinny and the Night Prowlers," and it was just like first song started. Like you weren't even like, "Yeah, we're Vinny and the Night Prowlers. We're here to rock your face." It wasn't none of that. It was just like boom, like first song,
straight rock and roll.
Yep.
That was actually rehearsed too.
Oh, nice.
Just so you know, yeah. Like so, I was like, okay, like we've got an hour and a half. Like we're gonna put on a rock and roll show. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I know how to do it. Let's go out there and play bangers, man. And that is a song that we opened with. That's the song we open every show with.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a Small Faces song called "What You Gonna Do About It," but like way harder than the original version.
Yep.
And so that was super fun. I just told him, I was like, right when Scott announces us, Bob's gonna roll us in.
Yep.
And just and go after it. That's actually one of my favorite songs to play too.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that's a really fun one. It's just a rocker, man. I just like to just go like, hey man, we're throttle down. Let's go,
Yep. So let's talk about the comparison between 2 years ago until now. If anybody wants to watch the video from 2 years ago, it's on YouTube. But otherwise, I didn't take any video this year. I don't know. I haven't taken video in a while for anything. But so let's think about 2 years ago when you were playing the Rockin' Picnic. Were you sweating bullets? Were you super nervous about it? You had to play an hour set. Was it something you were just like, man, this is actually not going to be easy?
Yes. Yeah. So back then, I wasn't near where I was playing able to play the guitar as well. I had just started that year really learning how to play guitar solos and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I was not as smooth, and I'm still a little rough when it comes to playing lead. But I just whatever. I just keep going. Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually a really big skill to learn is just to stay in time and keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think it's most important. I tell Travis that all the time. I'm like, hey, man, if you mess up, don't worry, man. ain't nobody gonna know. Just keep going.
Yep.
You know, as long as you keep going and you're on time, dude, you're good.
Yeah, it goes from he made a mistake to like 3 seconds later, like, wait, did he make a mistake?
Yeah.
Like that's like even as musicians, you're like, maybe he didn't make a mistake, you know?
Yeah, and I don't know. You were telling me somebody sent you a video of us playing Stormtrooping, or whatever. Because I did. I was like, hey man, this next song, Ted Nugent song, I want to play it for my buddy Pete Stockdale. He's one of the best music promoters around here, and I love what he does for music. And kind of talked a little bit about it, and I was like, he's got a podcast called Audible Farm, check it out, And
oh, nice.
And he's back here a lot when they put this deal on, helping out, making sure things go smoothly. So this one's called Stormtrooping. That's for Pete,
Nice.
Just went into it, but that first verse I messed up.
Oh man,
I messed up, and you can't really tell. I like, instead of doing the da na 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 na, I went straight to like the E's right before the chorus.
Yep.
And I started laughing. Like I literally was laughing in my mic, singing the chorus.
Yeah.
And Travis was too. But it was awesome because we all came in, and it was like it got covered so well but I was just laughing up there. And I guess that's part of the show. It's like, oh, something like that happens, I just laugh through it and keep playing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're gonna come back to Stormtrooping for sure. But dude, those onstage moments with your other musician friends where like, you mess something up, and maybe other musicians in the crowd might notice. Maybe not. Maybe somebody that really, really knows the song is like, they're not playing this exactly note for note or something. Like they might be able to figure it out. But like those moments when you're on stage where you're like, it's obvious somebody on stage screwed up to the people that are on stage, and they're like, wait, what the hell just happened there? And then, but you've played enough together that it's just like right back together, and so those are the times where you can laugh it off on stage and have fun with it and stuff like that, because you've played together enough and you're solid enough where it's like, okay, we're right here. It's like not even a measure goes by and everyone's already snapped right back to where they're supposed to be. And those are the times where I think those are the funnest times on stage, where you can do stuff and like laugh at each other. Like with Three Finger Betty, it was like the first band I did stuff like this with, where it's like I throw in leads here and here and here sometimes, but every now and then I just like randomly throw in another one just because I think it'd be fun. And I've played the songs 4 billion times, and I'm kind of like, overplaying it exactly the same. So you just add extra stuff in. And sometimes, like, at rehearsals or whatever, it's like not good, and people like look at you and you're just like, I don't know, or whatever,
Just messing around, man.
Goofing off, and like I try sometimes to hit harmonies with Jesse, and we don't rehearse as much as we should to like practice harmonies, but like we've got the good ones nailed down, but sometimes there's songs where like, I wonder what this would sound like with this harmony, and then you hit it and you're like, that doesn't sound good with somebody trying to come in with a real low voice, like on that one. So like, and it's those ones where you like do it once in the song, and Jesse just like, what the heck was that, and you're like, I'm sorry, I won't do it again, like my bad, but those are the things that I don't know why, like they make me smile so much, they just entertain me so much on stage. And like I feel, for me, I guess playing with like younger people was the people that kind of got me to like start doing that. Like playing with Owen, like that's like one kid that could just make me laugh on stage all the time. And I got to play a show with him this weekend too. So
nice, he shreds, man.
Yeah, he's tons of fun. But oh my gosh, yeah, those times on stage like that, I don't know why, but it's just like, for me, those are the tops. Like that's the ultimate enjoying time with people that you're creating art with, like live. It's just so fun. But yeah, like Stormtrooping, I do recall like it was like when I played the Rockin' Picnic with like the Stockyard. I think Jeff Blumel, Dan Blair, and Nick Earhart. So Jeff's from Chris Carr Band. Congratulations, Chris Carr, on the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then Nick Earhart from Riddle with Class, and then Dan Blair just kind of did solo stuff at the time, but. Yeah, we ended up playing that song because I'm kind of like you. I want to pick songs that people know, but I also want to pick like deeper cuts. Like Stormtrooping is a song that like people who like Ted Nugent are like, yeah, that's one of his most popular songs. But if you just like listen to classic rock, you're like, oh, you got Cat Scratch Fever, Stranglehold, and those are the two, like they don't know any other ones. So that one's just deep enough in the cut to be like, people are like, oh yeah, that's a good song.
And the people that do know it are gonna appreciate the hell out of it,
Yeah.
Or like we played Great by Buffalo as well.
Ah, sweet.
At the end, yeah, man. So it's like people, when we play that song, people are like, these guys know this frickin' song, man. Like, oh man, right on.
Yeah, that's like an Amboy Duke song, actually. Yeah. Like technically, I might have that on vinyl over there somewhere.
Nice.
But Yeah, dude. I mean, those are the kind of things. And I was talking to Bob, your drummer, about that. How like you like to choose songs that are just deep enough in most catalogs where it's like, oh shoot, like if nobody knew any better and you didn't tell them, they'd be like, these guys are like writing some freaking bangers, you know? Because
we played a show like that once. It was awesome. It was hilarious.
Just don't tell anyone you're doing covers.
Well, it was so funny because I did like during the show I'd be like, oh, this is so and so's song. Well, at the end, this like owner of this place, this is in Peoria, Illinois, man. Mm-hmm. And they're like, man, you guys are like one of the better blues rock bands we've ever seen. Like, we want you back. You know, your whole catalog's awesome. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, man, we only played like, 4 of our songs tonight, though. Mm-hmm. He's like, huh? I was like, yeah, man, like a lot of it was covers. He goes, I didn't even know that, man. I thought it was all your stuff besides a couple like Johnny Be Good and stuff like that, And
yeah.
I was like, nah, man, like that was like 90% of that what we do, is all these B-side tracks, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you pick bands that like, I mean, there's going to be some older people listening to this that are just like, how dare you say that Humboldt Pie isn't a band that people know who, or whatever.
Right.
But it's like, I know who they are. And I don't pop them on my Spotify and play them all the time.
Right.
But you do, it's like stuff like that where it's just like, here we go. Here's some deep cuts by a band that not everybody knows, but this band did rock and roll, back in the day.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Like, you ask most people our age, nobody's going to know who Humble Pie was.
Yeah, and I only like just know who, like I said, I only know who they are. If you were just like, this song, I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have to play it and I'd be like, I've heard this song before. Like, that's the only way I would know some of their music.
Usually what it is like I tell people, I'm like, yeah, I'm a huge Humble Pie fan. They're like, oh, like, we don't know who that is. I'm like, do you know who Peter Frampton is? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, he was in that band before he went solo.
There's a bunch of those bands.
Yeah.
And I'm like more blown away every time I discover one because I'm just like, I mean, it makes sense, but it's just like Bob Seger was in a band before Bob Seger? Like, it's like, well, yeah, like what, did he just show up and he's like, I'm Bob Seger and I want a band named after me? Like, that's not how it works.
No.
But then you go listen to it and it's just like, God dang, this stuff hauled too. It was a little weird in some spots. It got a little goofy, but like the more rockin' songs were really rockin'.
Dude, yeah. So, and yeah, Bob's early stuff. I really like Seger's early catalog. That guy was a hammer for a while. He released like 7 albums in like 4 years, man.
Didn't his band that he had before, what's the name? You probably remember.
Oh, God.
I forget. But didn't they do a Christmas album or something? Or they had a Christmas song?
Yeah, something. I don't know. God, what were they called? We were talking about it last time.
Yeah. I mean, we could look it up, I guess, for people that are, but yeah, I mean, those are the kind of things that I think about when I think about bands like, Bob Seger. But there's other, who's the solo artist that, shoot, I don't know. Go for something here. But yeah, Bob Seger band. Let's see. We're looking stuff up.
Yeah.
Bob Seger Wikipedia. That'll show me.
Yeah. But no, man, like, dude, Bob Seger's whole catalog. He covered like Midnight Rider and The Stealer by Free. Like, there's an album from like 73 called Back in 72, and it's like an unheard of Bob Seger album, and it's probably my favorite one.
Oh yeah,
The Last Herd.
Yep, The Last Herd. And there was also the Bob Seger System.
Yeah.
But yes, Last Herd was the band we were talking about. Love it. It's awesome. And there's probably people listening to this. I just imagine there's some older people listening to this. Like, it's The Last Herd. How do you not know this?
Detroit man.
But yeah, that's also like a bygone era of music that we're like never ever going to experience or like get to see. Where it's like bands could get popular in an area and they could do well enough where they might not necessarily have to get a big record label, but some of them get a big enough one and then things kind of change and fall apart. And then it's before you know it, only part of the band makes it out into this final project or whatever, Bob Seger or whatever it happens to be, whether or not you're talking like your Operation Ivy to Rancid transitions or like whatever it happens to be, different eras. It just doesn't happen too much nowadays, I don't think.
Well, and yeah, and the music, it's so, and I don't want to say like the internet ruined it, but I think it kind of did, like, because, you could just get on, which is nice. Like, there's being a musician, there's like a pro and a con side of thing. Like, Spotify is cool because I can look up whatever I want right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I can listen to whoever I want. Spotify even makes me playlists based off of stuff that I like, and then I could discover new music.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you don't get paid for, well, you do, but not barely anything for Spotify streams. You know what I mean?
Or for any streams.
So, yeah.
I mean, this is real creaky. I'm sorry. But yeah, there's some that pay way better than others, but it's still like fractions of pennies.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally makes sense. So it does benefit you to put it out there and do that, but kind of also not.
Right. Well, at least people are hearing it, and that's why I can't wait to get, like, this whole last week we were in the studio finishing up some stuff and getting the, a couple. Dude, we recorded like, I don't know, live takes too, like whole band live take. We probably got like 5 songs done this last week, plus a lot of rehearsal and stuff. We hadn't seen each other in a while, so I was like, I want to be tight for the show this weekend. And we get the big stage, so I'm gonna rock and roll. But no, like, I've been recording and it's been so much fun, man. It makes me want to do it like way more and write more, like just keep writing music because I just have a blast in there with those guys. We were messing around, and we got a bunch done, man, this week, and I'm so proud of that too. Like, I put on Snapchat maybe Friday. We were finishing up Friday, and I put on my Snap. I was like, I've accomplished more in like the last 4 days as a musician than I have in the last year. And like, besides practice or stuff, but I was like, and I'm super proud of that. I finally just took a week. I needed to get this stuff done. I really wanted to release it like at the picnic this year.
Yeah.
But hey, whatever. Stuff happened. It's been a really busy year. But hopefully all this gets done like very soon, and I can start. I want to release I actually told this to somebody last night. I said my deal is I want to do like a single, more like an EP though. I want like our 2 originals that we planned on making into a single on the A side, and then I want 2 live covers like that. We choose from one of our live shows we record to mix up and like, hey, this is cool, and throw those on the B side and like do a pressing of it, like a limited like 20 copies. And if you want one, like, I'll put it out and stream it or everything. But if you want like a physical like 48, or whatever,
45.
Yeah, 45. Yeah.
Yep. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
48.
No, it's 45.
35.
But if you want,
call in if you know.
Right. But that's what I want to do, and maybe make a couple CDs or something for people. But I want to do it old school and do a vinyl pressing. So
yeah, vinyl would be awesome. And I mean, it's inconvenient. Like, if you want to press 20 of them, like, have you looked up how much it's going to cost?
No.
$1 zillion.
Is it?
It's going to be expensive. Like,
hey, that's okay.
Unless you find like a special company that might be willing to do a short run. But oh gosh, vinyl it's so awesome, but it's so expensive, and it's such an endeavor. But so is all merch, honestly.
Yeah.
Having your music out there though in some capacity or another is definitely good. You were talking about you had like maybe recorded like 5 songs. How many total do you want to record to like put out on like an album or whatever?
Like 8, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, my first album, I want like 8, and I actually already have like enough original material right now to do like 12. But I don't really want to. I want to save some of it for number 2. And I'm steadily writing lately.
Nice.
And it's been really fun too, man. It's like I hear something, I'm like, man, that sounded cool, like, or in my head. Usually like something plays in my head. Like, I'll play a riff in my head and then I'll word it out like banana, or like that, and I'll take a video of myself doing that real quick. So I'm like, okay, got this saved. Later when I get home to my guitar, I'm gonna sit down and figure out how to play this riff in my head. And then that's how it works. For me anyway. But yeah,
I can't think of how many riffs I've like lost in my head while like driving somewhere in a daze, and I'm just like, this sounds really cool in my head, and then you're like, I'll remember that, and then you show up, and you don't even remember that you thought of it in the first place,
right?
You know?
Well, that's why I started. Every time I got an idea, I just started like doing a voice memo or a video, or you know, or if I have my guitar real quick and I learned something cool, or like I played something cool, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back and try to do that again. And I record myself doing it. I'm like, all right, that sounded cool. You know, now I've got a video of it to go back to, and I could say, all right,
reference it or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man. You know, it's been fun. I do want to put like 8. I'm thinking I want like 6 originals, and then like maybe 2 like of our more banger covers. Maybe one of them being a live song.
Yeah.
You know, or you know, I don't know, man. There's just a lot. I've put a lot of thought into this, and I really don't know what I want yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you could do something like and this is what I've like helped a couple other people do, where they've had like previous albums come out and they have covers on them, and it's like, what you gotta do is like take the covers and don't put them on Spotify because you don't have the rights to them, and if you want to get the rights, it just takes all your money away, so you're not gonna make any money. But so you put those on there, but like if somebody buys a physical copy, then you put them back on. So then you're right back to, if you want to buy this from me, you can get the covers. You know, the 2 covers that are on here or whatever. Or like if you want to buy them on Bandcamp, like if you buy the digital copy of it, like the MP3s or whatever, like then you can have it. But otherwise, it's like, you know, they're just not there. So it's like a bonus for somebody that actually purchases it straight from you or whatever.
Well, that's kind of why I wanted to do the, you know, the live things on the back of the LP, you know, or the EP, whatever you want to call it. But you know, our single thing I just told you about, like I was like, yeah, you know, like we'll release it. Literally, this is what me, Travis, and Bob talked about. We'll release it, you know, put our singles out, you know, our original stuff to stream, but a physical copy will have the live stuff on the back.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, I mean, I always got to try to think of like, well, how can I incentivize somebody to actually buy this? If they're a fan, they'll think like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. You know, like I have this physical copy that has this extra stuff on it, but I can always still listen to the classics or whatever, you know, on my phone if I'm just whatever. But yeah, so you guys recording all this stuff in house then, or how are you? Dang. I'm assuming Bob's doing some of the heavy lifting on that.
Yeah. So he's got all the equipment, all the tube mics and everything, and he's like, "Oh, this room sounds good for this. Let's do that." Like, dude, straight up, he like put our mic, you know, the vocal mic part in like every room. Mm-hmm. So like, this doesn't sound good. Ended up in Travis's closet.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's like one of the best places to go record some audio.
Yeah.
Because there's enough stuff in there to absorb all the bouncing, which is weird, but yeah.
Yeah, and we, dude, it was really cool. Like, the guitar tracks are all stereoed. Mm-hmm. So, like, one mix, like, in your left side, you're getting my instrument mic that's just right in front of the amplifier. Mm-hmm. And there's also a room mic that's coming out of the other side. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like a little bit of it's like a delay-ish thing. Yep. It's really weird, but it ended up making the guitar sound super cool.
Yeah, it's like millisecond delay, so it makes it just sound like extra thick.
Yeah.
You know, I love that kind of stuff. I mean, those are those weird tricks that most people don't think about when they're recording stuff that you can actually... I mean, it makes sense, though, too, because if you're sitting in a room listening to somebody, not only are you listening directly to whatever's coming straight to your ear holes from their voice and guitar, you're also listening to the crap that's bouncing off the walls, which you would kind of want to pick that up and recreate it in some capacity or another. But like I said, that's the stuff that most people probably don't ever think about, or maybe don't have the technology to like record some of that stuff.
Well, for the most part, what we wanted to do is our studio work. We wanted to sound like how we're gonna sound. You know,
yes.
You show up to one of our shows, we're going to play one of those songs, that's what you're going to hear on the record, you know. Mm-hmm. And, you know, of course, it's going to be a little cleaned up or whatever. We didn't really have to do a lot of cleaning on it at all, really. We just did our rhythm tracks live. The band went live straight through, and I went back and put lead on it and vocals, and that's really it, man. It was actually really fun, and I used a bunch of my different amps to get different tones that I wanted.
Yep.
And it was cool because for one of the lead tracks in a song we do called Drive Me Wild, I took my Ampeg, my 410, and then I also used an extension cab, my 412, and we mic'd both of those, and then also had a room mic back there, and that tone that I have on that is it's awesome. I was like, wow, dude, like I need to do that again sometime. Like,
yeah, people often underestimate. You don't have to go super nuts with your guitar setups. Most people are like, oh, you need 2 amps to go, full stereo, or you need an, ABY or a wet, dry, wet mix or whatever, and all this other nonsense. But like having a combo amp with an open back and then like slamming a closed back cab next to it, that's enough.
Right.
You get all the chiminess and cleanness out of the open back, and you get all the punch from the closed back, and it's like it sounds magic. I don't know. I love it.
Well, yeah, me too. And actually, I've been planning on doing something like that. I kind of want to run an extension with that new amp I've been using, and probably do a closed back thing. I was literally watching some guys play yesterday, I think. And like the Jeremy DeWall band, and they're like using these closed back cabs, Marshall cabs, and I like could tell the difference, I'm like, okay, like maybe I try something like this. But yeah, and it's super weird how like when you isolate the tracks from that, like if you just isolated the 412 cab compared to the 410, it's super crazy how they really sound a lot different, just the speaker size.
Yeah, the speaker size will make a big difference too.
So, and I never realized that until I did it. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's weird. Like 410s were things that kind of came around. We're talking like 4 10-inch speakers in a guitar amplifier, for people that don't know. But like those kind of came around when people were like, I need more sound or whatever. But like 12-inch speakers were a thing at the time. They just weren't like a super big common thing. The small amps had like 8-inch speakers and sometimes had 10s in them. Might have had a 12, but yeah, 410s were like decently common back in the day, and they're not very common nowadays. But they like definitely lend to more high frequencies to come out of them, a little bit easier, just based on like speaker size and things like that. They just can't handle the low, boo, boo, boo,
It is weird how they really, they're really trebly.
Yeah, they're punched through a mix.
Yeah, it's
time.
Really bright.
Yeah. Almost too much.
Yeah. Sometimes it's too much. Like if I turn my treble on that amp past a certain point, it's like.
Yeah, you just plug your ears. But it's weird though too, because you could be in your room and playing with that, and it's like this doesn't sound the best. But in like a full band setting, you're like, oh, this sounds pretty good in here because it's actually punching through with the frequencies that need to.
Yep.
And that's. The benefit of also, once again, having somebody who's, run professional sound in some capacity or another in your band, having Bob in the band.
Yeah.
He can easily just be like, this might sound better, maybe try this a little bit, just a little friendly hey from him probably goes a long way.
Right. Yeah, and it's nice. And actually, speaking of, I want to throw a shout out to, I believe his name is Mike, the guy running the sound last night.
Oh, yeah, Mike Wiedemann.
Yeah, he did a really good job. And I talked to him afterward, and I was like, hey, man, I think, I heard some video from out front because I can't tell what it sounds like on stage, out there.
Yep.
So I was like, hey, I heard some video that some people took, and I just want to say, like, good job, man. You made us sound pretty good out there, And he kind of came back at me. He's like, yeah, man, he's like, you guys are really fun to mix. He goes, 3 guys, it's only 3. Pretty easy, compared to these other 5-6 piece bands and stuff.
Yep.
He's like, you got 3 guys, and it's really fun. He's like, it's fun. I can do a lot of different stuff with you guys,
Yep.
And so I was like, heck yeah, man. Well, anytime. I'd like to work with you again. But yeah, it was that was really fun. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, that you did bring up a point that people might not like. If people are listening to this that don't play music, which does happen. If anybody's listening just to hear Vinny talk because they love Vinny, but
right on.
So you were talking about how like you can't hear what it sounds like out in front. So for people that are like non-performers, haven't been on stage, etc. But like if you're like in the crowd, you have these giant speakers blasting at you. But if you're on stage, you got these slightly smaller speakers pointed at your face from the floor, and they call them monitors, and they help you like monitor what your sound sounds like. But like each person on stage, like if you're singing and I'm singing, like I kind of might want to hear my vocals better than yours, if I in my monitor. But you might want to hear your vocals more than mine in your monitor. So everyone has like a different mix on stage that gets to sound exactly like you want it to sound. So we just trust that whatever's going out of the main speakers to the crowd is mixed well and
sounded good. Yeah.
Because like I up on stage might want to be like, I really want to hear my guitar, my vocals, and the kick and snare. You know, like those are the big things. You know,
right.
So or like whatever. But.
Yeah, same to me. Like usually when there's a mix, I'm like, well, with a 3-piece, I want to hear everybody pretty decently to hear how it's, you know. But you know, in the country band I play in, Faster Horses, which there was a kid with a Faster Horses hat on at the Rockin' Picnic.
Nice.
I like walked up, I was like, hey kid, nice hat. Like, but you know, that's a 6-piece country band. Like we got keys, fiddle, rhythm guitar, bass, and then lead guitar and drums.
Wow.
And so, you know, when we're mixing that, sometimes I don't even like to have a monitor because, like, I'm not a lead singer. I sometimes I'll sing "Can't You See," you know. So I like a little bit of vocal, you know, in mine, you know, or whatever. But I can usually hear my guitar just from my amp right behind me, so don't really need that. But yeah, usually I'm just, you know, I don't even like using one in that band because then it gets too loud.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many guys. I'm like, dude, I don't even like. I can hear you guys through your monitors, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like
that is one of the fun things though. Like playing on a big stage, if you have just a big enough band and everyone's playing, if you're like playing a guitar solo and you're like, I'm gonna walk over here and ham it up with the singer for a second, and you'll walk like 6 feet to the left, and it's like, oh, I can't hear anything my guitar's playing right now, like because there's nothing coming out of this monitor over here.
Yeah,
that's another fun thing about being on stage. Sometimes you're just like, I can't hear anything over here.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Oh man.
And that's it's like, personally, it's why I like playing with the 3-piece so much, is because I can hear everything all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and I can do my thing. I can go run around if I want to, you know, and you know, kind of just move around. And I think this is another thing I was proud about. Like, when it comes to putting on the show, like, I think I did a good job of that yesterday. Like, I was like, why I was looking forward to the show is like, we don't get to play big stages like that a lot. And I'm like, well, I'm going to try to use the stage today, you know, a little bit anyway, and just to kind of experiment with what I can and can't do. And I did that, and I think I did it pretty well. So I just want, I know people, you're probably thinking, this guy's like, oh, talking himself up. No, man, I'm just super proud of where I've came, you know, or like how far I've come since the first time I played there, man. So
yeah, and I mean that's like your other bookmark that you have for this. Pretty much is just like 2 years ago was pretty much your first show. So it wasn't, but it pretty much was, you know. So it's like 2 years ago, same place. It's like, this is how far you've come in 2 years. It's kind of wild to sit back and look at that and be like, man, look how comfortable I am on stage now, you know, or look how, you know, on a big stage like that, it's tough to, you want to like move around and stuff, but you also realize like it's a long ways to get over there, and then come all the way back over here to sing.
And then I've got to come back and sing. Yeah.
Yep.
Like I caught myself like over playing with Travis a couple times. I'd be soloing. I'm like, oh, we're about to come back around. I'm supposed to be singing. And I like have to run back over.
Yeah.
Another thing was funny. So like right away in the first song we played, I was wearing my sunglasses, and I just head banged like right away, like first note, and they came like all the way down my face, and like a couple measures later, I just grabbed them off my face and threw them across the stage, like out of the way, you know. I was like, okay, get out of here. And like Rod had said something to me. He's like, hey man, that was a super cool move for the show, you know. I was like, you know what? I didn't plan on that. It just they fell off a little bit, so. He was like, oh, I totally thought that was like, you know, your stage act. I was like, well, I might want to throw it in there.
I've been at home practicing sliding my sunglasses from off my nose down to my mouth. That way I can pitch them off stage while I fling my hair to the side.
Yeah, right. Well, it looked cool, so I was like, you know, whatever. You know, but stuff like that. I started duck walking again, you know, doing that Chuck Berry, Angus Young thing.
Yep.
And this is actually funny because I tripped over Travis's guitar cable.
Oh.
And like I almost fell down, but I hit Travis and I hit him, and then we just started playing together, and that was a fun part of it too. I told him after show, I was like, hey, remember that time I like kind of ran into your left shoulder? He's like, yeah, why? I was like, yeah, dude, I was duck walking and tripped over your guitar cable. Travis is blind, for those that don't know.
Yeah.
So he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah,
he was just playing.
He can't tell.
So I was like, yeah, I tripped over your stuff, man. Ran into you.
Yeah.
But
yeah, for everyone that like was just like, wait, what are we talking about? Like, yeah, Vinny's bassist is blind. Yeah, go back and listen to the Vinny and the Night Prowlers episode from about 2 years ago this time.
episode 133.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, and I only know that because somebody said last night, tell you what, Audible Farm, episode 133. That's a really good one, man. I'm like, who is it? Vinny and the Night Prowlers.
Oh, nice.
Oh, thanks, dude.
There you go. Yep. And I think you've been on since then, but still, oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. So Travis is blind, and it's fun that, you oftentimes think about like that kind of stuff. Like people are going nuts in the crowd. He's like, are they cheering for us? Is Vinny like showing his butt to everyone? Like, what's going on up here? Like he's probably like, there's got to be a bunch of that stuff like racing through his head at times or whatever. Or maybe he's just like, I got to keep on the beat. Maybe he doesn't pay attention, but.
Sometimes it's funny, like whenever I mess up or like he messes up, it's like I know he can't see, but he'll like glance over at me, and like I'll glance at him, and it's like, yeah, okay, kind of just laugh, like we were talking about earlier, just laugh it off, man.
Yeah, like it's freaking hilarious. Meanwhile, Bob's in the back playing the drums, like amateurs. Yeah. Oh, that's so hilarious. I don't know, man. Just playing those shows is so fun. It's so fun to have those bookmarks. Like, X amount. Years ago, I was here at this point. Now I'm here. Even if you're with the same band or a different band or whatever. And, you've been playing long enough now where you're probably starting to build a bunch of fun stories. Like, you're talking about getting comfortable on stage. Like, is there any fun stories you got from being, like, comfortable on stage? Like, I'm finally to the point where, like, I kind of just don't care. Like I'll just talk to people in the crowd like while I'm playing, or just like just like try and get somebody's attention and dink around, or if like you find somebody looking at you, like make faces at them, just like dumb stuff. Like yesterday at a show I played up at Tapped in Clear Lake with Jesse Wilson, and I was playing a solo, and I can't remember what was going on, but Jesse's playing some stuff and I'm doing a solo, and I'm like soloing, and then I hop off the stage, and if anybody's been there, it's like maybe like a knee-high stage. It's a little guy, it's right next to the door. And I just like hop off the stage, and then I just like walk outside. And I'm just like walking outside, like looking. I'm not going too far away, but I'm like looking down the streets trying to see if I can find anyone to like yell at and be like, "Hey, get in here! I'm playing as a guitar solo."
Right.
Check this, but nobody was out there. So I came back in. Whatever, the song ends, and I told Jesse, I was like, "Do you see me go outside?" And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I went outside during that last song." He's like, "You were outside?" Like I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, like whatever, Like people aren't going to be like." I don't know. At first, I would have been like, I got to stand right here next to the microphone. I'm going to be really businesslike and professional. And
right.
like, that's the kind of stuff where had I brought somebody in from outside, it would have been epic,
Right.
So that's kind of what I was going for. But just goofy stuff like that, I think, is some of those fun stories.
Are you using a wireless rig now?
No.
Oh, no kidding? You walked outside with a cable,
Yeah,
huh?
Yep. I came back in, it was all wrapped around stuff, and the bouncer guy had to, like, untangle me. Yeah, and I was making faces. I was, like, yanking on it all fake-like,
right.
like,
right.
My hands are in the air. Oh, this is such a big machine. I don't know how to run anything. Somebody help me, or whatever. But yeah, I was just having a blast. I think it's fun. Like that's the kind of stuff where if people are paying enough attention, they're like, this guy's up there just goofing off and having a blast, and somehow he's playing music while he's doing it, And,
well, that's a really fun thing. Like sometimes I learned this from Ted Nugent. He had like an interview of him, and he was like, yeah, back in the day, I'd let that hollow body birdling just feed back. I'd just find there'd be X's. I'd mark X's on the stages, like during sound check, to where I had a certain feedback, where my guitar would scream at me, the amp would, wow,
Yep.
And
which is an actual thing.
Yeah, so like I've kind of learned, and some of these songs I play, like I'll like, for instance, yesterday I played this song by AC/DC called Live Wire, and there's this breakdown part where like he kind of just lets his guitar feedback, and then the whole band comes back in. And like when I did that, I got on my knees right in front of my amp, and I just started holding my guitar up like a maniac, like Ted Nugent would. I saw him in a video, and he came back in, and but I just have fun. It's just fun for me. People probably think like, it's part of the show. You're like, that's what I told. Like I told you earlier, I guess, too. It's just like, man, I just want to put on like a rock and roll show. Like, that's it. I just want it to be like 1973. You're walking into a club or something, or you're like, this is a rock and roll band, just hammer down and actually do it too, with the guitars and stuff, and do the one, because that stuff's just fun to me, just to, mess around. You're messing around.
Yeah, and some of it comes down to you've played the songs enough. Some of it comes down to you've played enough shows where it doesn't feel like a lot of that stuff. The first time you do it, like this feels weird.
Yeah,
like this feels like I'm showing off or something. Like there's something about that, but it's also like, yeah, but you're also being paid to entertain people, so try and be entertaining, I guess, or do something,
Yeah,
do crowd work. I don't care what it is,
Dude, totally know what you're saying too. Because the first couple of times, like I tried duck walking or like doing weird stuff, I felt so weird doing it. I was like, man, what the heck am I doing? I'm making a fool of myself. I'm like, well, that's what rock and roll is about, isn't it?
Yeah, dude, it's so weird. There's so much of that stuff where you just like you look yourself in the mirror like on the way home from the show, and you're like. You get done taking, go to the bathroom. You get done going to the bathroom, and they're fucking washing your face or something, and you're just like, you look in the mirror, and you're like, the hell was I doing out there, or whatever. But like later, you're like, no, that was actually pretty cool. It did look I look like a dumbass doing it because it's me. But if it was somebody else doing it, I'd be like, that's actually pretty nifty, And that's I try and tell myself that all the time, whether it comes down to like, most things, and you become an adult and you just eventually you're just like, I don't care what other people think, But most of that's like you have to learn not to care what you think.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
Well, it's because, and especially the people that don't play music, they're like, wow, man, that guy's nuts. You know? He's like, how's he doing all this stuff,
Yeah. And I think that's something else we forget because, we go to the Rock and Picnic. We know so many of the people playing music there. We know, we go to other shows, jam nights, you go to a show in Fort Dodge area or whatever, wherever you're at. And you're just like, I know these people, I've met them before. We're buddies. I'm friends with them online. We've talked about music stuff. So you get to become friends with some of those people. And we think those are the only people that like go to shows and pay attention and know this stuff. But there's so many people out there that don't know anything about music, that have never picked up an instrument, don't want to, they just like going to shows or they want to hear the live music, and they don't care if you botch one note. They don't care if you're duck walking and they just want to hear the music, and they're like, that's entertaining. Like, I don't know this guy anymore, the Man of the Moon, but or whatever. But they're gonna be like, hey, did you see the guy that came to XYZ brewery over here the other day, and he was climbing all over his amp and holding his guitar way up in the air during parts and stuff and just going nuts. It's like he was feeling it,
Yeah.
But so much of that stuff I feel like we just battle ourselves with more than like we always try to say like don't worry about what other people think, but I think it's more like we're worrying to ourselves what we think other people maybe other people might think, but still I don't know, it's something like that.
Well, that's the deal too, is like I've been trying to really just be myself and do whatever I want. Like, and I think that's like where I became comfortable with doing certain things. Mm-hmm. And I don't do a lot on stage. A lot of it, I'm just like kind of walking around playing guitar and like just headbanging,
Mm-hmm.
Like my neck hurts today.
Yeah.
I was headbanging. But,
even that feels weird though at first. And that's like a natural thing,
Right.
When you're playing guitar, everyone like learns how to headbang just because it feels good.
Right. You're like tapping your foot.
Yeah.
To the beat.
But then after a while, you're like, do I look like a jackass up here just like headbanging and stuff? It's like, no, you don't look like it. It looks cool,
Right. But a whole part of it is like, for me, it's just the soul part of it, like I put a lot of feeling into my playing, and
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what it's all about, like for me musically is like putting your heart like out there. Like these songs I'm playing, I love these songs that I'm playing.
Yeah.
And they mean something to me, so hopefully I can make them mean something to you, or, make it sound good for you out there, all the people that are listening. And that's cool. Like one of the biggest compliments I get from people is like, man, you can tell like you really love to do this and you have fun doing it. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's what it's all about, man.
I think you said something in there that like might be one of like the key factors in this. So you guys as a band, it's not, you're not showing up and when people are like, play Toby Keith, you're not playing Toby Keith, or whatever. Yeah. It's not that you're not, but like, and Vinny and the Night Prowlers anyways, like when people show up and they're like, play this or play that, like you've already picked out your songs. You will do requests. We talked about that. Like you've done them before in certain situations, but you've picked out the songs you want to play and you're going to play. And that I think is one of the biggest things, because there's so many people that are just like, what's a song that everyone would love? And then they just start playing those songs instead. And then you have a set list full of bangers that gets the crowd going, but you don't have any, you don't have any skin in the game now. You're just kind of like, I just chose these songs because everyone else wanted to play them. It's kind of like being an artist and never painting anything you want to paint, and you're only ever painting stuff that somebody else is going to pay you to paint.
Right.
You know, but you get to be the person that's like, this is the stuff I want to paint, and someone's just like, that stuff's badass, I'll pay you money, come over here and paint it. You know, like that's pretty much what you found yourself in those shoes, and I think that's one of the benefits of Vinny and the Night Prowlers is you guys have a set list full of songs that you guys all obviously know and enjoy and love, and you haven't really like, you know, sold out to just being like, oh, we're gonna play 9 Tom Petty songs and whatever, you know, just kicking out all of those types of.
And don't get me wrong, I'd like to get back into doing some Petty because I was doing some Petty for a while, but you know, like
no comment.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, you know, when it comes down to it, like being a 3-piece especially, I think, you know, we've got our own sound. I'm gonna play songs the way I want to play them too. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, and the cover bands that can do that stuff are super talented. That can just play a cover note for note. You know,
there's an art to that, dude.
Yeah.
To get the tone, even to get the tone close, and then to hit all the notes, there's some wizardry involved in that.
Yeah. So I'm like, you know, cool. If you can do that, man, you're better than me for sure. You know? Yeah. But like, I want to go out there and especially just being the only guitar player, you know, or only lead instrument really, just as the trio. It's like when you go out there, it's like, okay, I'm not going to sound like the record. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm one guy on guitar when a lot of the songs we're playing, they're dual, you know, they have a rhythm guitar as well, mm-hmm. you know, and so I'm like, you know, I'm just going to do it however I want. And that's just how it rolls. And I think that's very smooth. Like, you know, that when you do it your way, you create your own sound.
Yep.
And that's what I like, you know. I just like to have my own feel.
Yeah, I can never remember the saying, but it's like necessity breeds innovation or something like that or whatever. Like if you only have like 3 people to make this sound with, and you have that for every single thing, like, and I'm just throwing out, for instance, you're only covering 4 and 5 piece band things. You're going to have to eliminate stuff and pick up things on the back end in some capacity or change it to a fashion that will always fit just 3 people being there. And that's like this thing that, you know, because you only have 3 people, you're actually innovating some of these songs to be, you know, a new thing, or at least bending them just a little bit to fit your style, which is actually really cool.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I've had to do that with a lot of them. Like, and just because it was like, man, you know, or like we start to playing something, I'm like, you know, we'll play it kind of like the record, and I'm like, I think we should change this part just because it doesn't, to me, it's not sounding right. You know, it sounds like too dull, and I want to have a big, for a trio, I'm trying to be a power trio, you know, I want a big sound at you the whole time. Mm-hmm. You know, so even in the bluesier stuff that we do, like slower song, like we played an original called Turn Out the Lights yesterday. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a slow blues song, and you know, but even that song has a big sound to it. So, mm-hmm. And I really like playing the original stuff, man. Honestly,
yeah,
like I love it.
Well, while we're getting closer to the end of this, but like, do you have like an estimated time to have this album out in some capacity? Are you going to go single and then release the EP? Are you going to do anything? Do you have that planned out yet? Or
I'm definitely getting 2 of the songs like completely finished and mixed. Mm-hmm. And then I'll, you know, before anything gets pressed or I do anything fancy, I'm definitely going to put those on for streaming, you know, so you can stream them. Mm-hmm. Just so basically, too, I'm trying to like really push. Like, I want to play a lot of shows next year. Mm-hmm. And, you know, with either band that I'm playing with, I'm going to really push this stuff hard. I'm going to get a hold of people, like, even if I have to get, like, a manager or something, like, or something, like, I want to go. Like, I want to go on a tour.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a touchy subject. I've seen a handful of bands that have actually been getting what I would call the beginning stages of notoriety. Like, it's just like, well, this band made an album, and like, it's actually been reviewed by some people, like, on their own accord, like the band didn't solicit them. And it's like, oh, the band made a music video and it won an award, for the musicianship and the, whatever. It's like, oh, that's cool, and they're trying to figure out what's the next step I should take. And there's a lot of really interesting takes on whether or not you just need somebody that's a booking agent and you can do all your own managing, because the manager is just going to be the person that tells the booking agent and these people and those, they're the overall thing. So if you can do that all yourself.
Well, I guess that's what I need as a booking agent, because I just don't have the time to. It's a. By the way, people playing music takes up a ton of time. like just being in a band, like trying to book everything, like, it's really hard to do with a full-time job, man. You know, and it's a lot of people don't understand that.
Well, especially when you're just like, if somebody hits you up, they're like, hey, we're a bar, we want you on this day, are you free? And then it's like, well, let me check my calendar. It's like, I'm not working, I don't have anything else booked, and I don't have anything else going on, so I'm free. And then you're like, yes, it looks like I'm free, let me hit up my other bandmates. You have to get on the horn. So-and-so, you got anything? Hey, so-and-so, you got anything going on? It's like, and then one of them's just like, let me double check, I'll get back to you tomorrow. And then you're like, I'll go back to the bar. Like, hey, I'll get back to you tomorrow. But then you have to remember the next day, like, hey, Steve, do you remember to get a hold of so-and-so? It's like, can you do this? And it's like, oh my, it's a lot of moving parts on top of practicing and then trying to record stuff, making merch. I mean, we can go down the rabbit hole of everything you have to do as a musician, and you're not actually even playing music.
Yeah, it's a job. I mean, it's a full-time job. If you want to play music every weekend, or like, if you want to play 3 shows a week, it's a full-time job. Yeah. Because you're out there, you're running, like it's really a grind. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is, like, people, I've run into a lot of people now that like don't understand how much it takes, and I've had to explain to these people, like, hey, sorry, like, I can't do this weekend, or I can't do this, or, multiple people. It's crazy. I wrote a song about it, actually. But just explaining to certain people, like, sorry, dude, like, I have to play with the band, or I have to go rehearse, or I have to go record something, or, I'm trying to book stuff, There's just so much behind-the-scenes work that goes into it. It's like, man, it didn't happen overnight. Like, I didn't become a decent guitar player overnight, man. Like, and when I don't play my guitar for a week, it's like, okay, I'm going to take, like, 2 hours to myself. I'm going to turn my cellular data off and just play my guitar, So...
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes. I'm so glad I don't have to deal... Of all the shows I've played, 99.8% of them I had nothing to do with the booking. Like, right. I'm so happy about that, because that is such a pain in the butt, Well,
and it's crazy. Like, this guy just actually hit me up yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, like, about playing. No, it was actually this morning. Gosh, playing this show at this place in Cedar Rapids, and he's their manager and books all his stuff, and he even plays in the band in Cedar Rapids. But like, he hit me up, oh, you got a band canceled, can you play next week? I'm like, dude, like, I really wish, but I'm already, and it's an awesome place to play. Like, this is what makes me sad, and I'm not even playing music or anything next week. I'm just moving. Mm-hmm. I'm like, if I wasn't moving into another house next weekend, like, I'd be there, man, but I'm sorry, like, can't make it work. I'm like, dude, the last 2 times you've hit me up to play your place, it's like, it's been, like, within a week notice, which is fine. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, if you want me to come in and play for the band that canceled, whatever, I'll take up the opportunity, and especially when it's a cool venue, but it's hard to make happen sometimes.
Yeah. So. Oh, it's not always easy, especially when it's like the short notice like that. You don't want to be the person that tells them no 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and they're just never going to get a hold of you again, which is how it works. And it's understandable because, from their point of view, like, they've been trying to get a hold of you and it didn't work, and it's like, Jesus, take forever. But yeah, it totally makes sense. But yeah, booking shows, all the stuff behind the scenes is a pain in the butt. Plus the driving there, the packing up, the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, even just simple stuff, like, I've got enough gear to run a 1-person show, and I'm not trying to be like, hey, but, like, I've got a Junko drum set. If we need a drum set, I got a drum set, and I've got a cheap bass amp. If we need bass, I got one, and I've got an extra guitar amp or whatever, I've got a monitor. If you need one, I can bring a monitor, which is, like, the case recently. So you do also have those situations where it's like, oh, our setup, something went down, and now we need another one of these, and it's like, hopefully somebody in the else in the band has one, you know, or like, and then you have to get a hold of them like, hey, did you leave yet? Because if you haven't, we need another one of these or whatever, you know. And, or like I brought another monitor last night, but like forgot a power cable for it. And I found it was underneath my car seat, which is stupid, but yeah. So, but yeah, like, but Jesse had an extra one, you know, so he didn't have a monitor, but I brought mine, and then it's like, oh, it all worked out anyways. But there's all that goofy stuff that people don't ever really tend to think too much about, as far as like playing music. That is the tough stuff. And like, let alone we're talking playing shows, doing things like that, which is basically like how we get noticed and make money. It's just playing shows. Like Facebook promotion, it's tough. It doesn't work very well. I have a podcast. Yes, it's cool. It doesn't get millions of listens. It's not like I'm the biggest thing in the world, but people listen every week, and I'm very thankful to everybody. But it's not like this is the best avenue either. You know, the best avenue is always going to be going out and performing. But the ultimate goal for a lot of musicians is to record some of this, you know, and time capsule it somehow or another. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily just for them or for anybody, but like just because, you know, I want to actually have this recorded. Even if nobody ever listens to it after I'm dead, it doesn't matter. I just want to be able to have this be done, you know?
Yeah, right. Well, in 20 years from now, I can look back on it too, you know, and like that's what I look forward to where I'm at like 10 years from now, mm-hmm. like as a guitar player, as a person, you know, like just, you know, and I want it all documented. You know, I have so much fun with it, and then whether I go anywhere or not, man, you know, I don't expect to blow up and get huge, you know, whatever. I just want to play music, you know, have a lot of fun doing it, and I just kind of want to be, you know, whether I as long as I can make some money at it, you know, too, and I'm not blowing all my money on it, which is... Speaking of this room, you know,
blowing money on things. Oh my gosh, my bad.
No, I wouldn't call it blown money. It's all investing, you know, in yourself, but I'm getting to the point now where it's like, okay, I can't buy another amp for a while because I have a bunch.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like the quest for tone, like you're saying, you want people to be able to know that it's you playing when you start playing. Which my tone is. Not necessarily like, oh, that's obviously Peter, but I do stack like some effects when I play live in there. So it's like, oh, who would play with this kind of a goofy, like understated effects laden guitar tone? It's like, oh, it's Peter, you know?
Yeah.
He wants to be crispy and like spanky, but he also wants to be like kind of dreamy and like.
Yeah, honestly, I like your tone, man. I think you're an awesome guitar player in yourself, dude.
Woo,
so like
just saying,
yeah, man, you're awesome, dude.
It's basically just me and Vinny giving each other high fives the whole afternoon. But hey, that's what the podcast is all about. You know, it is really cool. I do want to say from a personal standpoint, like watching you, like we'll just recap like one of the first episodes. Basically, like you and I met at Iowa Central. I think I was wearing an Iron Maiden shirt, and you were like, freaking cool, man.
Maiden.
And I was like, this guy knows what's up. So we kind of started hanging out, talking, and we went to a jam night because you were like, I play bass and whatever, and I play a little guitar. And it's like, okay, cool. So we went there, and I was like, can you play these songs? And you like pull them up on your phone. And you're like, yeah, got them. And so we went up and played a handful of songs, and ever since then, it's just like, you know, the floodgates open, and now you're here, and it's like, this is super cool. It's not like I'm the reason that it started, but I was there when it started, you know, because you were playing guitar before you ever met me and stuff. But like, you know, it's kind of cool to be like, look how far this person's come, you know. And then it's like, I wonder how far I've come as a musician. And then like yesterday I was doing that. I was reflecting. I was like, oh, I was in a metal band for like 2 years, you know, and I was doing all this other stuff. You know, I played at the Rockin' Picnic, you know, twice as like a fill-in band, you know, and I played once as like one of the in-betweener bands, you know, and I've played there, you know, in different capacities with different bands and, you know, punk music and blues music and country and folk and metal. I've played it's just kind of cool to see that, you know, you and I were taking different directions, but we're still like out there doing stuff. And it's fun to see you out there now, not just playing the Vinny and the Night Prowlers stuff, but also being in another band and kind of expanding your horizons.
Yeah, and that's a totally different, I mean, that's a country band, man. And I'm just like kind of blown away at, you know, I've learned a lot playing in the country band, just because there's a lot of different stuff that goes on, and there's some weird progressions, honestly, in some of those songs that I think are weird. A lot of different variations of chords that are weird that I've had to learn, but it's all been very good for me and helpful.
Yeah.
You know, I learned a couple different scales to use for my soloing, but and that's really helped me. Actually, learning all those scales helped me be able to like listen to something and be able to play like guitar licks to a record like instead of looking it up.
Yep.
So that's my favorite thing to do now is when I hear something cool, I'm like, okay, I'm learning that by ear.
Yep.
At least try to.
Try to figure it out. Yeah. I'm still not the best at ear learning, but it's fun though too when somebody's like, "Can you play this song?" It's like, I don't know, like, and then you just kind of like fiddle around. You're like, "Yeah, I guess I kind of can."
Yeah, kind of.
But yeah, and then that's also the thing that makes you mad, where you're just like, there's only so many notes and so many patterns, and everyone uses most of the same ones. And how is it that they can make like these massive classic hits and I can't make crap? Like,
right.
I don't know, but it's just weird because it's like the small pattern differences is what makes up all the stuff, and that just blows my mind, I guess for everyone that doesn't know music theory, it's just kind of wild. There's only so many notes and only so many places you could put them.
Right.
And people have been making music for so long. It's like, how are there new patterns and how is that one better than this one or whatever?
Right.
But,
yeah. How can you do this? And a lot of it's, pretty similar, but, and real quick, I do want to give a big shout out to,
no shout outs. No, I'm just kidding.
Dan Tabeka from Cedar Rapids. He's in a band called the Laid Back Band. He's the guy who built my amp that I was using yesterday.
Oh, cool.
And I do, like, I've called it a tone quest. Like, when people ask, oh, man, that's cool. And it's really cool. Like, I had never met any of those guys in the Germany to Wall band. And when I was, like, leaving the stage, like, they all said, hey, man, that was pretty kick-ass, And I'm like, hey, thanks, And after the show, I get to talking with Jeremy, and I think his name was Alex, but I can't remember, like the keys player, another guitar player in the band. And they're like, man, what are you using for reverb? Like your reverb sounds good. Like that amp's awesome. I said, well, it's not the reverb from the amp. It's a pedal actually. It's a Boss 63 Fender reverb pedal that I actually got the idea from Matt Woods.
There you go.
I was like, man, your reverb sounds awesome. What is that? Oh yeah, you've got to get one of these, man.
Yep.
Bought one the next day.
Yep. Oh man, yeah, that's the thing. Like, just talking to somebody else, and it's like, I like the one thing, I like this thing, and it's like, I'm going to borrow this from this person. It's like, what are you doing with your tone over here? It's like, oh, overdrive. I'm going to borrow that from this person. Then before you know it, you've got your own thing. And
yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love it. So, man, it's always good sitting down talking to you. We've covered an hour. You gave some shout outs. We talked about the Rockin' Picnic. You've come a long way. I'm proud of you, man.
Thanks, dude. I'm like I said, I'm just like, I'm impressed with myself.
Yeah.
Like, and that's something, because I'm never one to say that, but last night I'm super happy about that show, man. I can't be more, there's some stuff I could have cleaned up, but I don't care at this point, man. I think it was a rockin' show, and that's, I'm really happy about it. So I guess we'll see what's next.
Yeah.
Like, and what's cool is basically the rest of the shows I'm playing this year with the Night Prowlers are shows like that, like multiple bands,
those are always
little
fun.
festivals, and it's awesome.
So when the never-ending ebbs and flows of artistry and musicianship come to a point where you're just like, man, I feel like I'm stagnating. I'm going to make you listen to this episode right here and just be like, look how proud you were of how far you came. Like, so this is your new measuring stick for the next one. Look how far you've come since today. So, dude, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's always good to see you.
Absolutely. I love sitting down talking with Vince. It's always a blast. Always a blast. My cousin Vinny. No, he's not my cousin. But, whatever. It's super fun sitting down talking with him. We always have a blast. We always have a good time. I love watching him play. Unfortunately, I could barely catch any of his set at the Rockin' Picnic because I had to go off and play a show for myself, which is that bittersweet thing about being a musician is we can't always watch our friends play. So I always try and take in as many of my friends as I can, when I can, if I can. So Vince is no different. I got to watch his first set at the Rockin' Picnic, which is available on the Audible Farm YouTube channel if you guys want to go check it out. But I highly suggest going out and watching him live somewhere. Holy moly. It is an absolute blast. And it's just wild to see how far he's come in 2 short years, fronting a band that he basically had just started, and then now he's just chugging along. He's played shows out in Montana and stuff. It's wild. He's all over the place. He's playing with a country band too, and it's one of those things at the end when he said he was proud of himself. I think that's a real thing. People shouldn't take that lightly. I guess I talk about it sometimes on the podcast, but it's tough to feel good about your own skill level as a musician. Some people are, think everything they do is amazing, but it's also pretty easy to look at everyone else and be like, I can't do what he does, and I can't do what he does. I'm never gonna be, Steve Vai or whoever. I'll never be able to write a song as good as Chris Carr or whatever. Whatever it happens to be. So it's easy to look at that and just be like, I'm not gonna be good, and just give up or be as good. That's all the better you're ever gonna get. But Vinny's worked hard to be where he's at. He's always sending me snaps. He's always posting pictures and videos online of him playing guitar. And, I don't doubt it when he said sometimes if he hasn't played in a while, he'll just, shut his phone off and just sit there in a room for like 2 hours and play guitar. I wouldn't doubt that. He seems like that kind of guy. He's doing that anyways with his phone and taking videos and sending them to people. So, hey, it's just fun to watch him, see him grow and stuff like that. So highly suggest going to check out Vinny and the Night Prowlers live, or just go watch Vince Benyshek anytime he goes and plays live. I know he's pretty active online. There are social media links down below for Vinny and the Night Prowlers. Check those out. Make sure you like and subscribe or whatever to anything you can find Vinny and the Night Prowlers, because we talked about it a tiny bit in this episode. There's Vinny and the Night Prowlers original music going to come out soon, eventually, maybe. They're like, he's sending me little clips and pieces of it, like they get it all recorded, they're mixing it. It's happening. It's gonna happen. So go to the social medias, click like, follow, let them know you want that music out ASAP, because I can't wait for that. That's gonna be amazing. So super excited for that. Congrats, Vinny, working hard, it's paying off. That's how it's done. And if you guys are looking for anything, Vince Benyshek down below, there's the links. And down below the Vinny and the Night Prowlers links are the Audible Farm links. audiblefarm.com will show you all the Audible Farm goodness. Links to everywhere, all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, all the good stuff. The shop, the Patreon. Hoodies are in. Audible Farm hoodies are in. There are a limited number. I didn't order a ton, but what I have, I have a feeling they're gonna go fast, and the colder the weather gets, the faster they're gonna go. And I might order a different design maybe next time, but you know how long it took me to reorder hoodies, so I would just suggest snagging one if you got one. Find me at a show, hit me up, come find me somewhere, and Three Finger Betty, Jesse Wilson, maybe a Clint Riedel show. I will be playing some shows with Clint Riedel in the fall, so check us out. Any one of those bands, I'll be there, most likely, and I will have Audible Farm goodies for you. Just hit me up and say you're coming to the show and tell me what size, and I'll bring it, and whammo, we can save you guys some shipping and fees and things like that. So, otherwise, the Audible Farm shop is there. Hoodies, t-shirts. There's stickers there. There's keychains. Are the keychains still on there? I believe the keychains are still on the shop. Check them out. There's I have keychains. One way or the other, I have keychains. But yeah, there's all sorts of goodness on the Audible Farm shop. Otherwise, Patreon. We mentioned it right at the very beginning of the Vinny interview here. There's still Patreon. $1 a month. All the Audible Farm video versions. And I think I'm going to try and get a little bit more interactive with a couple posts on there and see if I can poll the crowd and see what people want to watch on there. Because I've got some ideas. I've spun it past some friends and musicians and things. And yeah, so I think I've got an idea. Let's just say I got an idea. Good or not, I don't know. So we're going to check that out. Patreon, $1 a month. That's all it costs. It's $12 a year. All the video versions of the podcast are free. So check that out. Free if you pay me $1. Is that how that works? I don't know. All I know is I'm done plugging all the Audible Farm stuff. Check it out. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. Thank you, everybody, for buying the hoodies. I am out of here for the week. I will be back next week with another guest. All right. Peace.